This passage recounts one of the most powerful and expressive scenes in all of Scripture. It's the story of God overcoming the apparent impossibility of restoring dry bones to life. These bones don't just live. These bones don't just come back together and walk. These bones can dance. It's the kind of vivid technicolor images in this passage that would make someone like Spielberg drool. Can you imagine him setting this to cinematography? In a desolate place with a tumbleweed blowing by, it's hard to imagine such desolation when we have such beauty all around us, life and grass, the birds singing in the trees, cars going by. But in a desolate place, in a valley with dry bones, we see God overcome what's impossible. The earth shakes, the bones move together, they join with one another, sinew, flesh, and then skin materialize out of nothing and form over these bones. And then God breathes life. Suddenly, there's an army standing before the prophet Ezekiel. This is a powerful message about God's capabilities, and it's a testimony for us to listen and follow as we continue each day on life's journey. There will be great days. There will be beautiful days. There will be absolutely joyous days in our lives. Joy, days that are just so incredible we can hardly put words to. But there's also going to be dark days in our lives. Days that are hard. Days that seem like we're standing in a valley full of dry bones. Days where it seems like the death is all around us. Days when it seems like those sun-bleached bones are all over the body. In his mind's eye, the prophet is transported to a place like that and witnesses God in action in just such a valley of dry bones, a valley of lowly despair. God can triumph over that despair, over that desolation, destruction, decimation. The post-mortem destiny of those bones, of the people whose bones litter that valley, is still with God. God is still in control of that situation. This vision is a testimony to God's continuous power, even power over death. The imagery is striking. Bones are final. Once there are bones with no flesh, that's it. There's no resuscitation at that point. The question that God asks, mortal, can these bones live? Is really amazing because, of course, the answer is obvious. No, God. No, they can't. There is no hope at this point. This is a valley of dry, desolate bones. The multitude has died. The flesh has not only rotted away or been cleaned with wild animals, but it's been bleached white by the sun. And Ezekiel stands in the midst of it. Many of the commentators of this passage liken it to a scene after a battle. In September of 1862, American men from all walks of life gathered together to create something like this scene in Ezekiel 37. It was a field just a little north of the town of Antietam, Maryland. They created a valley of corpses. In one single day, it was the bloodiest day in American history. This was, of course, the Civil War, and the battle was fierce. Both sides wanted to win. That's how generally they approach wars. There was a spot in this field, in this battle, called Bloody Lane. Some of the Confederate soldiers had found a little ditch to get down in where they had perfect cover. And as Union soldiers came to try to cross the ditch, they shot every one of them right where they stood. In a neighboring field nearby, this field where the Battle of Antietam took place, spraying through the field the previous day. It was a desperate day, and many men fell on both sides. When dusk finally arrived, the firing slowed down to only scattered shots. The evening breezes presumably blew the smell of black powder out of the air. By nightfall, there were over 30,000 dead men, bodies stretched from one side of the field to the other. Before the sun bleached white the bones in Ezekiel's vision, it could have looked just like Antioch, with death everywhere. Now, a scene like that is a stark scene. But C.S. Lewis reminds us that death doesn't just come in war or battle. C.S. Lewis said, "War does not increase death. Death is total in every generation." If you think about it, C.S. Lewis is absolutely right. He's stating something that may seem somewhat obvious, but every person who survived the Battle of Antietam is now dead. Even having survived that, every person's life eventually comes to an end. Every person who survived D-Day, the bubonic plague, Auschwitz, or you can fill in the blank, any horror of this world's history will eventually die. Death is total in every generation. If we, who have gathered here together to worship our God, share nothing else in common, we share in common this one thing. Every person will someday die. Our prayer, of course, is to peaceful sleep. But we don't know how. We don't know what the future holds. We only know that every person will die. Now, on a beautiful day, as we've gathered in this, warm sunshine? Hot sun? As we've gathered in this beautiful sunshine, in this beautiful day, I don't mean to be so bleak. I don't mean to draw us down from the beauty of this space. But in each of our lives, we can also experience a slow, eking death in a different way. A death in our soul, in which even though we are alive, even though we live, we are slowly dying inside. On our journey, we can let the worst become us. Robert Browning has a line in one of my very favorite poems called Hospice. And then toward the end of the poem, it says, "For sudden, the worst turns the best to the grave." Instead of letting our worst become us, we can face the worst, see the possibilities, and then sudden, the worst turns the best. Each one of us faces ugly little voices inside us. They seek to dominate us. And when they take over, we, on the inside, are no different than Ezekiel's valley of dry bones. Even though we might still be alive, even though we might still be smiling, even though we might still be saying, "Fine," when somebody says, "How are you?" "Fine." We can be that valley of dry bones inside. The point of Ezekiel's prophecy is the same as Pentecost. God can breathe new life into this world. For God, anything is possible. And at this point, "can" is the operative word. Ezekiel saw what was possible, and what he envisioned was amazing. This is a great lesson, not just for Pentecost, but for every day. The possibilities are amazing. The possibilities here, the possibilities in us. The possibilities that what God can do in our community. All the people who are driving by, who are going to worship with one of our neighbors, who are coming into Sunday school. All the people who are at home right now. The possibilities are amazing. And when we hear a prophecy of God breathing new life into a valley of dry bones, we can see that for God all things are possible. What can happen is more than amazing. It's incredible. To be credible means to be believable. In other words, it's incredible or plausible that some of our young people scored a 600 on their SOLs, the perfect score on their SOLs. Because we know all of our young people in our church are brilliant. So we hear that and we say, this is believable. It happens to also be true. But it's believable. But what Ezekiel envisioned was incredible, unbelievable, implausible. It's like saying that some of our young people came up with a way as a science project to take away all pain, emotional pain, physical pain, just a little magic pill. Well, we'd say, that's incredible. That's unbelievable. We'd be right. But it's also incredible to see God as breathing new life into dry bones. What we do with these possibilities is up to us. We can respond. We can act. Or we can say, that's nuts. Get back in our cars and go on with our day. The words in Ezekiel are not a eulogy. They're not the end. They're our command to bring new life. God isn't calling the prophet to proclaim an end to this valley of dry bones. God says, mortal, prophesy to these bones. You will live. God speaks and the earth shakes and the bones start breathing. God always desires to bring back home. God's desire is to take those dry bones, weave them back together again, and bring them back to life. God's desire is to take us into the new possibilities and restore us. This model of restoration portrayed in this passage is something we can live out. It's something we can do. Each step, each day,